Taylor, welcome to what we call undersized secrets. This is how to become just a dominant undersized player and not only survive no matter what height you are, but actually use your size as an advantage. Now, the height standard in high-level basketball, like in the pros and in the NBA, and even in college, if you're not 6'4" or taller, of course, you're actually considered undersized. This means that you have the odds actually stacked against you every time you go up against a taller player. Anytime a coach comes to watch you play, they're going to be considering that. Anytime a scout is looking at you, same thing. Okay, so the best players in the NBA, some of the best guards like Chris Paul, Darren Williams, Steve Nash, Russell Westbrook, guys like this, are actually undersized at their position. They're undersized compared to who they play against. Tony Parker's another one. But they've learned to use that size as an advantage. And there's a lot of different things you can do when you know how to play as an undersized player to use that size, again, as an advantage. So today, I want to talk about why undersized players, it's not actually the disadvantage that you think it is. The only difference is that the margin for error is smaller. This means that you gotta have those ball on a string handles. You have to have the lightning quick automatic jumper. You have to be a beast on the court, never get tired, never slow down. Be the toughest player on the court at all times. But if you can do those things, if you can train yourself to be that type of player, you're going to have an advantage over taller players. And you're going to be able to play the way that you see Chris Paul or Darren Williams or Russell Westbrook or Steve Nash or Tony Parker playing on the floor. Okay, so that's the type of player we're going to turn you into today. So again, like I said, it's not a disadvantage for you. It's just that the margin for error is smaller. So today, here's what we're going to go through. First of all, how to use your size to your advantage. There's three main techniques we're going to talk about. Beating players off the dribble, you're actually going to have an advantage. Getting into gaps in the offense, you're going to have an advantage. And picking off more steals, you're going to have an advantage. And when you can capitalize on those things, it means more scoring opportunities for you and your team. Next, we're going to go through the undersized 7. These are the 7 most effective undersized player moves that, as an undersized player, again, you can add to your game to really boost your scoring average into a really high level, even more so than those taller players that you probably play with or play against. These 7 moves are deadly, and when you add them to your game, your scoring average is going to explode. Next is what we call the Beast series. Okay, the Beast series is 3 must-do drills for undersized players. What you're going to do is you're going to finish off your workout with one of these every time you go into the gym. So you can just pick one. They all do more or less the same stuff, but I typically recommend rotating them, and they're going to turn you into just a beast as an undersized player. This is the training technique that we use with all of our guys who are less than 6'4", and they turn into literally machines on the court, and you will too when you go through these. We'll go through them in today's video. Last, we're going to go into player breakdowns. We're going to look at some of the best undersized players in the world, guys like Darren Williams, Tony Parker, Steve Nash, Chris Paul. We're going to look at their game and see the little nuances and subtle things that they do to survive, and not only survive, but thrive as an undersized player. All right, so enjoy this series. I can't wait to get this into your hands. And again, first off, we're going to go through how to actually use your size as an advantage if you're less than 6'4". So first off, how to use your undersized height to your advantage on the basketball court. There's 3 main things. The first one is beating players off the dribble. There's a 3-step sequence that when you can follow this, you're going to be able to beat players basically at will, no matter what height you are, and especially as an undersized player. We'll show you how you have the advantage here. So that's the first thing we'll go through. Next, getting into gaps in the offense. There's 3 main gaps that you're going to be able to look for and get into within the flow of an offense. And then last, picking off more steals. Again, 3 main opportunities to do that, and your height actually serves you well when you're doing these things. So let's go into, first off, beating your man off the dribble. Okay, so beating your man off the dribble as an undersized player, we always say this: the lowest man wins. Okay, here's what that means. When you're playing, if you ever watch a guy like Kobe Bryant drive, This is a guy who's like 6'6", 6'7", but he's so low, he's a lot of the time touching his shoulder to the defender's hip, sometimes even grazing the ground with his hand. So the key to this is that the lowest man wins. And because you're undersized, you can turn the corner much tighter than a taller guy. So if I'm faced up, all I need to do as an undersized player is get lower than my man, which is going to be easier for you, get as low as possible, and turn the corner as tight as possible. The goal is to get your shoulder to his hip. When you can do this, you can actually cut off his angle. So as a defensive player, you can get right here and get him kind of on your hip, your shoulder to his hip, and turn the corner. Then you can put him on your back. So that's the main goal. When you face up and you go around your defender, get low, tight, and turn this corner right here to get in front and get your path to the hoop. Now he has nowhere to go. He has nowhere to recover. If he pivots and opens up, he's going to trip over me or hit me and send me to the line. He's going to get in foul trouble, and now you have an advantage. Even though you're smaller, you actually use that height to get by the defender. So again, right here, when he's playing D, get as low as possible, tight and low, all the way to the hoop. Now, a couple things to note. The first step is that the lowest man wins, but what we want to do is first look at the lead foot. Okay, so Tim's facing up, this foot, put it right there. If he's faced up this way, this is his lead foot, obviously. He's trying to force me to the right. The easiest way to go by him is, again, low and tight and cut off his angle. See where my foot is in front of his? Now he can't pivot and open up. So if you look to attack the lead foot and go low and tight, I'm way by him already. As opposed to if he is open this way and I just go this way, now he can shuffle and slide in front of me pretty easy and cut off that angle. You want to always cut off the angle. So as an undersized player, if I go this way, that's not really going to work. But if I do attack this lead foot and I go low and tight and by him, it's a lot tougher. Now, the only time that changes is on a pull-up, okay? A lot of the time it's easier to flatten your game out to get a pull-up jumper. So in this case, if he is open this way and I want to go this way, I actually go flat to get that space. My space comes in a horizontal, not vertical plane. You don't want to go by him, have him recover, and be contested on that pull-up. It's a little bit easier just to go flat, and now he's moving this way, I get an inch and rise up. But when you're breaking your man down off the dribble, the key to this is lead foot, low and tight, turn the corner, put him on your back, okay? 3 steps. Attack the lead foot when possible. Obviously, if you're doing a crossover, the goal changes because you're trying to actually displace him. But when you're beating him straight up and down off the dribble, you're just going to attack the lead foot and go by. Next, low and tight, turn the corner, get him on your back, okay? Each and every time. Your goal should be to actually turn this corner so tight that now the defense is on your back. Next, when you do this, okay, a lot of people talk about a long first step. As an undersized player, that's not going to be to your advantage because your length isn't your advantage, it's your quickness. So, when you go by, there's going to be a normal first step, okay? As long as you can try to seal and get by tight, it's a normal first step. Don't go out of your way to try to make it longer than it needs to be. Normal, and then explode on your second step. I actually heard a guard once say, it's not your first step, it's your second step that counts. So, a normal first step, it can be on the shorter side and quicker and choppier, normal, and then explode by and finish at the rim for either your layup, your dunk if you're really athletic, or a floater or a pull-up jumper, okay? So that's the simple series to beating your man off the dribble. Again, we'll go through it. Tap the lead foot, low and tight, shoulder to hip, put him on your back, get all the way to the rim, finish, short, choppy, quick first step, explosive, accelerative second step, all the way to the rim, floater, pull up, whatever you need to do to finish at the rim. Okay, so second way your size can actually be your advantage is when you're trying to get into gaps in the offense. A player who does this really well is Steve Nash. You're going to see a lot of parallels between what we're talking about in Steve Nash's game if you study him. Three things: the kill zone, the baseline drift, and splitting the screen. Three major gaps that you got to look for and polish into your game, pattern your game after. The first one is what we call the kill zone. This is a really basic principle that when you can add it to your game, you can create so many opportunities for your game. So the kill zone is simply this. It goes the length of the free throw line all the way down to this hash, right around here, halfway through, across, and back up. It's a box, okay, right here. When you can get into this area on the court, you can create infinite opportunities for you and for your team in terms of scoring. So when I can get into this area right here, as opposed to maybe the corner, the wing, or the other corner, or the other wing, or the top, when I can get into this little box, I got options. Tim's my big man. I can draw his defender and dump to Tim, easy. I can also go in if his man doesn't come and I've beat mine. I can do a little floater or mid-range jumper here. I can pull it all the way back out if I want to, no problem. You can do what's called a Euro pass that we'll talk about later and draw the defense in and kick out to a shooter on the outside. You can do so many things when you get into this gap. So every time you're on the offensive end, let's say you are faced up with your defender right here. Okay? So if you're faced up with your defender right here, all you need to be looking at, let's say he's forcing you to the outside. And again, most defenses, their coach will tell them to force you to the outside. So all you got to do is recognize, hey, I'm an undersized player. This is to my advantage. I can go low and tight, like we talk about, by him, and get all the way into this kill zone. Now, I have all this space to work. I can dump, I can kick, I can pull up, I can bring it back out for a reset and try to get in there again. But because you have that size advantage, you can sneak in that gap and make plays a lot more easily than a 7-footer would be able to, for example. So this is, again, the kill zone, something that we always talk about, trying to get yourself into to create plays for you and for your team. The next way to get into a gap, something Steve Nash does so well, probably better than anybody I've seen. It's called the baseline drift, okay? When you get caught, if you're 7 feet tall, you get legitimately caught under that rim. You're not going anywhere, okay? You're going to have to bang it out and grind with the big men to try to get your shot up. Nash, on the other hand, can actually keep the ball and go all the way out back to the outside, and that does two things, okay? So let's see how it looks. On this side, when I drive, let's say I drive baseline, he's with me, he's with me, he's with me. I got to turn the corner right here. This is where your height is an advantage. If I'm stuck here and I can't, let's say I can't lay it up, there's a big man here, my player, my teammate's right there waiting, so his man's there. All I do is bring it back out. My defender follows me like this. All of a sudden, I've left this wide open space behind, okay? If I'm a big man, I'm stuck down there. I'm not going anywhere once I'm there. But as an undersized player, again, let's say I'm driving from this side, I get under there, and now I bring it all the way back out. My big man's defender has probably followed as a help defense. My big man's going to be wide open. There's going to be a wing player who can slash through the middle, and it's going to open up a lot of opportunities in this space right here. I can also bring it back out. If my man got caught back there, let's say I fake a pass or I looked at the big man, he's gotten burned a couple times on these passes, and he stays there, all of a sudden I have an instant pull-up turnaround jumper. There's so many things that you can look for in the baseline drift. So, again, I'm on the wing. I drive. Okay, I get caught. I have to get low and tight, bring it all the way out. If you're a big man, you're not going to be able to do this, but as an undersized player, you can. You're all the way on this side. Look at all of that power as an undersized player. Bigger players simply do not, okay? So, again, that's called the baseline drift, something that Nash does really, really well. He carries the defense with him, and it's just a tremendous way to create and get into gaps in the offense. Next, undersized gap that you can get into that a lot of players can't is when you have to split a screen. If you're a good guard, your team's probably going to run a lot of pick and rolls. If they don't, they should, okay? Because you're going to watch a lot of tape later that has Tony Parker, Nash, all these guys running off pick and rolls all day long. So in the pick and roll, you have an opportunity that other players don't to split the screen. So let's pretend this nice blue guy right here is my teammate. He's setting a screen for me. This is his defender. My man, who is imaginary currently, is with me. He gets caught on this screen. I go tight and low always. He gets caught on that screen. This man jumps. I can now split right between that screen. And if you play it right, you can turn the corner so tight and so precisely that you can actually split right between like he's not even there. So if you go right here, I can now get in this kill zone like we talked about, dump, pull up, kick, and create. Another option that you have is if your man, let's say you've been running these all game long, which you should really, if you've been running these screen rolls all game long, then your man probably is going to try to cheat. So let's say Tim's guarding me right now, and he tries to cheat and jump behind that screen. So if I'm this way, I can now go the opposite way and get in for a pull-up, okay? Same thing. Comes this way, jumps that screen. I can simply go the opposite way for a mid-range jumper and get in this little gap because there's going to be help D here. There's going to be help D right there. When you're an undersized player, it's a little easier. If he jumps, you can now get in this gap for a quick little short pull-up jumper. But this gap's not available to Shaq, obviously, okay? This gap's only available when he jumps and you get right in between. Again, the key is low and tight. You're the lowest player there. Your dribble is low. You see Kyrie Irving do this a lot. Dribbles low, gets in between, right in between there, all the way to the hoop. Another technique. Same thing. Let's say he's guarding my man who's setting the screen, and he jumps and tries to help. We're going to do what's called a throw through, okay? Throw through. The way around, throw the ball through, get in, create. Now you're in the kill zone. Again, it always comes back to try to get into that kill zone every single time down the court. If you can, that's where you can create from. So, like I said, if your team is smart, they're going to be running a lot of pick and rolls for you. It's your job as that undersized guard who's dictating that whole tempo of the game to actually master the screen and roll. Okay, that's your job. You need to work with your big man to master that screen and roll, get very, very good at it, and have it down to a science where you know, okay, that big man cheats, okay? So we'll go through the options. Say this is the big man, his man cheats up. We know if he cheats up, split it. If my man goes with the screen, he gets caught, and let's say this gap isn't here, you can now play the big man, okay? So let's say I didn't get through this little gap right there. All of a sudden, I'm against this big man going to the rim. Remember what we said, the lowest man wins. Who do you think is going to win in this matchup? I get low and tight all the way around, turn the corner, beat him all the way to the rim, and finish. Or you can do one of the other moves to create space that we'll talk about a little bit later. But for now, you can beat him all the way to that rim every single time if you cut that corner tight enough and get there. Last, he cheats, all right? So Tim's guarding me, and he's going to cheat this screen. He's gotten burned a bunch of times. Now all of a sudden he cheats, turn back, easy jumper, all right? Those are all the options. You can use that screen and roll really, really well, but you have some advantages as an undersized player in getting through those little gaps that other players can't get into. All right, so keep that in mind. Work on those pick and rolls. Study players who run a lot of pick and rolls. Tony Parker, Steve Nash. Add that to your game. You're going to do very, very well with it.